Now, tensions in the Korean Peninsula is heating up. North Korea has fired a series of missiles yet again. One of the missiles triggered sudden blaring in parts of Japan. Residents were seen seeking shelter in central and northern regions.
また7時40分頃に発射されたものは日本列島を越えて飛翔する可能性があると探知しましたので J アラートにてその旨公表いたしました。その後当該情報を確認したところミサイルは日本列島を越えず日本海上空にて消失したことが確認されましたので訂正いたします。
While it did not fly over Japan, at least one of the missiles fell into the country's territorial waters. North Korea also tested an intercontinental ballistic missile, but its launch failed following its second state separation. This is the latest in a record year of missile testing by the North. The launches come a day after Pyongyang fired most number of missiles within 24-hour span. A record 23 missiles landed in the waters. One of them even reached South Korea's coast for the first time. The government had to issue an air raid warning in response. North Korea's neighbors have been voicing their concern. On one occasion, Seoul called the launches a quote-unquote territorial invasion, and Tokyo has also condemned them as an outrage that cannot be forgiven.
A ballistic missile was launched earlier. The continuous launch of ballistic missiles is outrageous and absolutely intolerable.
Now, these criticisms are clearly falling on deaf ears because Pyongyang has branded all of them as quote-unquote retaliation. You see, South Korea and United States are conducting one of their largest joint drill. They have touted them as a dry run for a scenario of a real war. Pentagon's F-35s are hovering in South Korea's airspace holding mock missions. For North Korea, this is a threat. Pyongyang says that these drills are a sign of provocation. So the Hermit Kingdom responded with its own missile tests. The peninsula has already witnessed over 50 missiles by North Korea this year. Despite crippling sanctions, Pyongyang has conducted 6 nuclear tests between 2006 and 2017. And it is being rumored that it is planning a 7th one in the coming weeks. Now for more on this, we are being joined by James DJ Brown, an international affairs expert from Tokyo. Welcome to the broadcast. I want to start with a broader question. How do you assess the latest tensions in the Korean Peninsula?
Yeah, it's deeply worrying. I think whilst for Japan, today's missile launches are a major concern, what really stands out over the last few days is actually the missile tests yesterday. And in particular, with one of those missiles falling so close to the South Korean coastline, as you noted, for the first time since the Korean War. And that shows a willingness on the part of the North Korean side to really increase the tensions, to take increasingly dangerous and risky decisions. So I think more than anything, that's the most worrying development this week.
Right now, we are hearing some talks of sanctions by the United States, and if it happens, other Western nations are bound to follow up. But I want to ask you, we don't know if sanctions have worked against North Korea previously. So does the international community not have any other tool of deterrence?
Well, that's right. I mean, sanctions, I think everyone recognizes, have really quite limited effect on North Korea. This is a regime that is willing to impoverish its people, that is willing to disconnect itself from the world. And so in those circumstances, it pretty much means that sanctions don't really have much effect. But the reason why countries continue to introduce them is the alternative is much worse. The alternative would be using military action. Now, obviously, in doing that against a nuclear-armed state, the chances of escalation are extremely high. So yes, sanctions are not particularly effective, but they're just about all that we've got.
Right now, stay with me, James. I have a bit of a longer question for you. The last time North Korea conducted a nuclear test was 2017. There was a threat of war back then also, but today geopolitics has taken a different kind of a shape. A war is ongoing in Ukraine, China's aggression towards Taiwan is growing, and then there is North Korea. A common link here is the United States. So in case we see a nuclear test in the coming days, I want to ask you, how do you expect Washington to react?
Well, I think in a way it won't be as dramatic when and if it occurs as some people might expect. Of course, it will be a huge development, North Korea testing a nuclear weapon for the seventh time. But I mean, we've had this scenario before. And we are still reasonably confident that North Korea is not going to do something so foolish as to actually launch an attack on South Korea or its neighbors. So whilst it would be very worrying, I don't think there's going to be from the United States anything different from what we've seen before. How the US would respond would be a very clear condemnation, looking to see if they can sanction anything else, recommitting to the security of its allies, South Korea and Japan, but probably not that much more beyond that.
All right, some interesting points made there. Thank you for joining us, James.
Thank you.